Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today, the top 10 inventions that will give you hope for humanity. Some days it can seem like the best minds on Earth are all preoccupied with projects like developing robot soldiers, launching cryptocurrencies, and designing slot machines. While those activities may arguably have some societal value, it's hard to see their primary mission as unambiguously beneficial. But do have hope for humanity, because in the video today we're looking at 10 inventions that might not make a ton of money and might not make their creators famous, but they do make the world a better place. Number 10. Prosthetic dolphin tail. Winter the dolphin did not have an easy start in life. At 3 months old, she was found by a fisherman tangled in a crab trap line. Winter, named after the season in which she was found, was cut from the line by the fisherman, who then called in a rescue crew. Despite the best efforts of the marine hospital where she was taken, the line had cut off circulation to her tail fluke, and it was lost. Normally this is a fatal injury for a dolphin, but in her new aquarium home, she learned to swim with a shark-like side-to-side motion instead of the usual up-and-down motion that dolphins usually employ with their tails, and she used her flippers for momentum. While this provided a temporary solution, the unnatural motion posed a long-term risk of scoliosis, and Winter's health was worsening. And this is where two prostheticists, Kevin Carroll and Dan Strzemka, enter the picture. They are with the Hanger Orthopedic Group. Carroll heard Winter's story on the radio and convinced his colleague, who also happened to be an amputee, that they could help. Carroll and Strzemka quickly volunteered to try to craft a prosthetic tail for Winter. While aquarium staff initially thought that Carroll's call was a prank, they quickly agreed to let the men, who offered to work pro bono, work with a team of trainers and vets to try to find a solution. After several iterations, the team developed a viable prosthetic tail for Winter, as well as a gel that provides cushioning for the prosthesis. Not only was Winter able to swim normally again, her story, which spawned the movie Dolphin Tale, provided inspiration for people all over the world, including children with disabilities and wounded soldiers. Not only that, but the gel they developed has also helped human amputees. Number 9. An anti-tremor spoon. While working on his doctorate, engineer Anupam Pathak worked with the Army Research Lab looking for ways to stabilize rifles for soldiers in combat. Pathak succeeded in identifying ways to make the hardware for motion cancellation very small, and realized his innovation had the potential to help another group of people who needed steady hands, those with essential tremor or Parkinson's disease. One of the most salient impacts of those diseases comes when the patients eat. Often, hand and arm tremors make it impossible for those experiencing them to feed themselves. However, Pathak worked to refine and commercialize his technology to make a spoon that would cancel out the tremors, giving patients back their autonomy over one of their daily functions. Using Pathak's motion cancellation technology, the Liftware Steady Spoon cancels out more than 70% of shaking, allowing many of those with hand tremors to feed themselves. The company was acquired by Google and has since reduced the price of its products and introduced a second product, the Liftware Level, a spoon which assists those with limited hand and arm mobility by keeping the utensil level, even when the hand moves unpredictably. One user with essential tremor explained the impact of this device on her life, noting that the Liftware spoon made eating less embarrassing and gave her more confidence, making eating simply enjoyable again. Number 8. Railway tunnels for turtles. What happens when Japan's high-speed trains meet its low-speed turtles? Well, in the past, it hasn't been pretty for either party. Near Kobe in Japan, which is on the coast, turtles trying to cross the tracks sometimes fell in the space between them and couldn't get up. They'd walk between the tracks until they got killed by a passing train, or until they got to a junction, at which point they'd get squished during the signal switches. This wasn't just a problem for the turtles, but also for the train and its passengers, with turtle-related incidents causing 13 service disruptions between 2002 and 2013. To combat the turtle versus train problem, West Japan Railway Company partnered with the Suma Aqualife Park to find a solution. They came up with turtle tunnels. These are concrete ditches that pass under the tracks near switch points. If staff find any turtles in the tunnels during their train checks, they rescue them and send them to the aquarium. A train company spokesman noted that the system prevents turtles from getting into accidents and avoids causing trouble for our passengers. We hope to continue using it. Number 7. Biodegradable six-pack rings. Plastic packaging poses a threat to wildlife on land as well as in the sea. The Pacific Ocean has a garbage patch made up of almost 80,000 tons of discarded plastic, covering an area 3 times the size of France. It poses a threat to all sea life that encounters it, who can be entangled and killed in the floating trash pile. While plastic six-pack rings that hold cans of soda or beer make up a tiny fraction of the discarded plastic, consumers have long been warned to cut them up before discarding them, because they can injure or kill animals that become trapped in them. However, one company, E6PR, has come up with an even better way to ensure that animals don't become victims. It has created an eco-friendly six-pack ring made from byproduct waste, wheat and barley, and designed to even be compostable. Even if it doesn't make it to a compost facility, it will break down in weeks, unlike plastic, and won't hurt animals if they ingest it. The product had its commercial debut in early 2018 on beer cans from Florida's Saltwater Brewery. As of mid-2018, the company is working to refine the product and ramp up production to be able to supply the six-pack to all the beverage manufacturers who want to offer it. That's a development animals all over the world should want to toast to. Number 6. PARO the robot seal. PARO, an interactive robot that resembles a baby seal, may be best known for its appearance on Aziz Ansari's sitcom Master of None. However, PARO, which was designed in Japan, does most of the work in nursing homes and hospitals, helping provide patients with the benefits of animal therapy. Like a trained therapy animal, PARO responds to users' voice and movements with its own motions and vocalizations. However, unlike real animals, PARO doesn't need food, breaks, or cleanup, and it doesn't play favorites among patients. It also won't trigger allergies and can be used with patients whose unpredictable behavior might pose a risk to the therapy animal. In a study of nursing home residents who interacted with PARO for an hour twice a week over 12 weeks, they showed significant declines in loneliness over the period of the study. For those who worry about the dehumanizing effect robot therapy animals might have, research suggests that in addition to engaging with PARO, residents who did so were more social with other residents and the staff. Another study of dementia patients found that sessions with PARO lessened anxiety, increased social interaction, and helped lethargic patients remain alert. Number 5. Pugedon recycling receptacle. The Pugedon recycling receptacle aims to address two problems at once: promoting recycling and feeding stray cats and dogs. The machine, which is about the size of a refrigerator, is placed on the street and powered by a solar cell. When someone throws in a recyclable bottle, the machine dispenses food for hungry strays. If users want to empty their water bottles before disposing of them, the machine also funnels that leftover water to a bowl that the strays can access. The profits garnered from the sale of the recyclables pays for the kibble dispensed by the unit. The machine was introduced in Istanbul, Turkey, which is home to more than 150,000 stray cats and dogs. Engin Gargin, the machine's inventor, said that he was inspired by the idea of giving residents a cost-free way to help strays while improving Turkey's recycling rates. One of the concerns of the units is that they would attract hordes of hungry dogs, but according to one article, that has not transpired. In India, the machines were planned with a slightly different user in mind. Pugedon units have been placed near areas where pet owners walk their dogs in the hopes that the prospect of a free dinner for their canine companion may encourage residents to recycle. Number 4. The Upsee harness. Debbie Elnatan, an Israeli mother of a son with cerebral palsy, was determined to see her son walk. This was despite the fact that doctors had counseled her that her 2-year-old didn't know what his legs are and has no consciousness of them. Elnatan worked with her son to build his walking skills, which was an arduous task. Elnatan says the idea of the Upsee, a harness that attaches a child to an adult, allowing the child to stand upright and to take steps with the support and motion of the adult, came from the pain and desperation she experienced while trying to find a way for her son to walk. A group of 20 families with mobility-challenged children tested an early version of the product and shared favorable results. The children enjoyed using the harness, and the Upsee enabled families to undertake more activities together. The Upsee was put into mass production by Irish company Lackey and is now improving the lives of children with mobility challenges all around the world. Number 3. Embrace infant warmers. Complications from preterm births are responsible for approximately 1 million infant deaths every year. A major contributing factor to these deaths is the hypothermia many premature babies experience, as they lack the body fat needed to regulate their temperatures. In wealthier settings, these babies can be placed in incubators in hospitals, and they have much better outcomes than those who are born in resource-poor settings. This is due to the fact that hospitals are often distant, electricity can be intermittent, and incubators that can cost up to $20,000 simply aren't affordable. Addressing this gap in care was the challenge faced by Jane Chen, Rahul Panikar, Linus Liang, and later Naganand Murthy, who first received the project in a Stanford design class called Design for Extreme Affordability. Using design thinking and rapid prototyping, the team developed the Embrace Infant Warmer, a sleeping bag type warmer that relies on paraffin pouches for heat and costs hundreds of dollars instead of thousands. The product has since helped more than 300,000 babies worldwide. In order to ensure the product's sustainability, the company introduced a for-profit sleep sack, the sales of which support charitable distribution of the Embrace warmers throughout the developing world. Number 2. Lifestraw water filter. The Lifestraw story begins with a guinea worm, a tropical parasite that incapacitates those who consume its larvae by drinking unclean water. In 1986, guinea worm disease affected more than 3.5 million people in Africa and Asia. By 2017, the disease was nearly eradicated, with only about 30 reported cases. One of the factors driving down the incidence of the disease was a filter developed by Vestigard, a Swiss-based company which removes guinea worm larvae from drinking water. After its success with the guinea worm filter, Vestigard turned its attention to dealing with other water contaminants. In 2005, it introduced the Lifestraw, a personal straw-like filter designed for use in emergency situations and in the developing world where clean drinking water may not be easily accessible. Today, the company offers a range of products based around this idea, from water bottles for hikers to larger community-level water purification systems. For each product purchased, the company commits to providing clean water via school-based systems to a child in the developing world for a year. Lifestraw's philanthropic efforts have produced clean water for more than 1 million children in the developing world. Number 1. Be My Eyes app. The idea for this app, which helps people who are visually impaired by crowdsourcing volunteer assistance with short, simple tasks, came from founder Hans Wieberg's own experiences as a visually impaired individual. Wieberg's blind friends shared that they often relied on FaceTime or other video phone apps to ask for help from family and friends with everyday problems like reading the expiration date on a carton of milk or the departure board at a train station, though many of them worried that they were burdening their loved ones with a plethora of microtasks. Wieberg saw an opportunity to connect the visually impaired with a network of volunteers who could help with things like identifying the contents of cans or reading the amount of an electric bill. After pitching the idea at a startup weekend in 2012 in Denmark, Wieberg quickly connected with a team that helped him turn the idea into reality, and the free mobile app was launched for iOS in 2015 and Android in 2017. Since the app's launch, more than 80,000 blind and visually impaired individuals have been helped by more than 1.3 million sighted volunteers. There are indeed so many volunteers that they have to be quick to the draw to be able to help. As of late 2017, the app's response time averaged 20 seconds, meaning that most users were able to get the help they need almost as soon as they needed it. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel for brand new videos every day of the week. Also, I've got another channel. It's called Biographics. It's biographies of notable people from the present day, as well as history from Elon Musk to Osama bin Laden. You can check it out through the icon on the screen now. But if you want to watch something else right now, why not check out another TopTenz video or a Biographics video over there on the right. And as always, thank you for watching.